Today I'd like to talk to you about an aspect of my personal recollections that, in my opinion, has played a great role in the history of mankind and has not been dealt with elsewhere, as far as I know. Some background is necessary, and I entitle this chapter, today's chapter, Der Dolchstoß von hinten, in translation, the stab in the back. I was born in September 1909 in Germany. The world was then at peace. Germany was at peace, and the Jews of Germany lived in peace in Germany. And the Jews of Germany enjoyed an unprecedented amount of freedom and equality. No more Judensteuer, in translation a special tax imposed for many years past on the Jews only, and no more restrictions on travel for Jews inside Germany. The state they lived in paid for the synagogue's upkeep. The salaries of their rabbis were paid by the state, and all related expenses were part of that same rule. This was in line with all other houses of worship in Germany. The Jews had been living in Germany since Roman times. The question arises, how did they get to Germany after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem by the Romans in the year of 70 AD? Many Jews were taken as slaves and were moved from Jerusalem to Rome. And while the Christians were being fed to the lions in the Colosseum for the enjoyment of the Roman public, the Jews were given Roman, that is, Latin names, and served in the military as traders, doctors and lawyers, etc., etc. When the Roman armies marched north to conquer much of Europe, many of the Jews came with them. However, when the Romans had to retreat, the Jews had no incentive to go back to Rome and back to slavery. They settled along Europe's great rivers and kept their Roman given names, which names such as Marcus, Pincus, Lazarus, etc. All names that you easily recognize as Jewish names. Thus, the Jews' presence on German soil goes way back to Roman times. I entered elementary school when I was 5 years old. The year was 1914 and World War I had just begun. I well remember the excitement and enthusiasm all around us. After all, the Germans were finally going to get access to Africa's cheap labor and great resources. These resources were in the hands of the British, French, Dutch and Portuguese in form of colonies. To the Germans there was no question of the outcome of this war. After all, the Germans had the world's largest, best trained, best led and best equipped army. It was a truly disciplined army. The German people went into this war with great enthusiasm and without the slightest doubt of the outcome, that is, of victory. The German national anthem was Germany, Germany above all in the world. The Germans not only sang it, but believed in the message it gave forth. They felt they had good reason to believe in what their national anthem said. At that time, Germany was leading the world not only in military areas, but in civilized achievement, industry, medicine, music, poetry, philosophy, and social sciences. Social security, as a matter of fact, was introduced to the world by Germany under the reign of Kaiser Wilhelm I. This was long before any other nation had anything like it planned or in fact installed. But then in 1918, after 4 years of extreme hardship, which the military and civilian endured, came the armistice and the unconditional surrender of the German army. The Kaiser fled for his life and the military leaders went into retirement, still heroes in the eyes of the people. The city near the Polish border, where I had my first encounter with the Nazis, was named in honor of the chief commander of the German forces in World War I. The city was named Hindenburg. The name was also given to the ill-fated Zeppelin, which exploded when it landed in New Jersey. Of course, this was after World War I. I mention this only to substantiate my previous statement that the military who lost the war remained the Germans' heroes. The German Jews, and eventually any Jews throughout the German-occupied lands, became their victims. When the war was over, the people were totally unprepared for the news and were confused and demoralized. There was disbelief and lack of order all around them. Then, with inflation to follow, when postage stamps were printed for millions of marks, money lost its value overnight. And where all this was happening, a small newspaper printed in Nuremberg and edited by a then largely unknown editor named Julius Streicher gave the people the long-awaited answer as to why Germany lost the war. I vividly remember the front page of this paper named Der Stürmer. It showed the caricature of a Jew with a dagger in his hand, standing behind some uniformed German soldiers. The explanation of this scene was given, der Dolchstoß von hinten, the stab in the back, in translation. Now, this made sense to the German people. Now they had the answer. Now they understood. The German army did not lose the war on the battlefield. It was the fault of the international Jews who stabbed the valiant German soldiers in the back. For the German people, this explanation was where Hitler's violent anti-Semitism was born. I do not want to leave the impression that there was no anti-Semitism in Germany before the lost war. 2 examples only. The world-renowned composer Wagner was also known as an obsessed anti-Semite. And no doubt there were many other Germans who made no secret of their dislike and hate of Jews. One of my personal experiences may suffice to clarify this subject. As a student at the University of Heidelberg, one of the obligatory subjects for me was physics. The chairman of the physics department was Professor Lennart. There was not a lecture of his that did not ridicule Albert Einstein and his relativity theory, always referring to his, that is Einstein's, foreign mind, in parentheses, not Aryan. Professor Leonard even refused to examine Jewish students. You can imagine how I felt when my turn came and I obviously slipped through the cordon and was not only examined by him, but passed. There are many more personal experiences that I had with anti-Semitism in Germany before Hitler. None, however, compared to the violent, ruthless, furious, and cruel expression of anti-Semitism that was to come when Hitler came to power in 1933. I tried to look for some explanation to the question: how could a nation which had once led the world in all matters of civilization so quickly and radically turn into a nation that was ready and willing to commit the most incredible and most cruel crimes upon the Jewish population? This was a country that was known as a nation of poets and philosophers, and then turned into a nation of heartless, ruthless mass murderers. This was done without a sign of protest or disapproval by the German people as a whole. And all of this happened while the world at large stood by. At the international conference of 32 countries in Evian, France, in 1938, after much deliberation, for 9 full days, they had one offer. The Dominican Republic offered to take in a limited number of German Jews. All other countries, including the United States of America, kept their doors tightly closed to German Jews, and thereby, in fact, encouraging Hitler to proceed with his plan to exterminate all Jews.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay.